Well, Ortega's been in power for a number of years now, and he's engineered re-election sometimes in controversial circumstances. But the thing remained stable for years, largely on the basis of an alliance with the private sector and the church in recent years, and the arrangement which sort of almost shared power with those institutions, and included businessmen, for instance, in advisory committees and so on. That was largely financed by money from Venezuela, or credits from Venezuela, which had a sort of fellow feeling through their president, Hugo Chavez, who was a close friend of Daniel Ortega. That has now petered out. Venezuela is in a terrible economic crisis, and the aid and the oil that was coming to Nicaragua has dried up. The economy, therefore, which was growing very healthily at a rate of more than 4% a year, has now ground more or less completely to a halt, and the old arrangements no longer hold. But Ortega is determined to cling on to power, and the protests have been growing, as we know.
You mentioned the church. It's been trying to help out some anti-government protesters. Is it fair to say that it's siding with them?
Well, they're trying to act as mediators, although the statements by the auxiliary bishop of Managua, Silvio José Baez, have been pretty critical of the government. The old alliance between the hierarchy of the church and the Sandinista government has pretty well broken down, and bishops are now regularly going and identifying themselves with the protesters. There was a recent case in which the Cardinal Archbishop and his auxiliary went to the occupation of a church, or a church where protesters had taken refuge, and came under fire from police and paramilitaries associated with the government. And the Baez, the auxiliary bishop, was roughed up by people in ski masks who associated with the government. So it's pretty well, although the church would like to act as a mediator, bring the sides together, encourage dialogue, that's pretty well broken down, I think.
Now that Monimbo is back under government control, how do you see the situation evolving? Do you think this movement is going to end?
No, I don't think so for a moment. In fact, Monimbo has a very symbolic importance. It's the indigenous quarter of Masaya, which was traditionally a stronghold of the Sandinistas, of the current government, in the days when they were taking on the Somoza dictatorship. Now it's become a bulwark of opposition to the government and of resistance to the Sandinista government. And, for instance, the former vice president, Sergio Ramirez, who's a celebrated novelist, published a tweet today saying that Monimbo hasn't fallen, Monimbo refuses to surrender, Monimbo will live, and we're all Monimbo. So I think they're using the attack on Monimbo as a rallying point to keep the opposition going. So I don't think it's going to peter out at this point by any means.